Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Headhunters podcast. Today's special guest holds a professional record of 23 wins, 6 losses, coming off a win against Tony Gravely. In his UFC debut, Joe Rogan tagged his performance as one of the most exciting debuts he's ever seen. Ladies and gentlemen, Victor Henry. What's going on, man?
I'm chilling, bro. Just getting out of practice, eating, chilling on the couch. It's getting a little bit warmer in here in California, so we're doing all right.
Yeah, we're definitely getting to that time of year, but I want to take it back to your debut. I know you took it on short notice. What was it like getting your UFC debut on a pay per view?
Yeah, it's the same as any other fight, bro. I mean, the crowd changed, the betting changes, everything changes except for the person across from you trying to punch you in the face. So it was the same.
Yeah, and to hear Joe Rogan tag your performance as one of the most exciting debuts he's ever seen, what would that kind of make you feel like? I'm sure that was nice to hear.
It was nice to hear, but what I was more jazzed about was hearing all the jackass guys talking about my tattoo. That was for me more of a nostalgic moment because I grew up with him.
Yeah, yeah. I mean that's cool in itself, and I watched the that fight and when Joe Rogan interviewed you, and you said you had met him previously. What where was that at?
That was at an elevator with it was me, my friend Juan, Joe Rogan, and Eddie Bravo. We were they were I had just signed up at the gym and they were actually in an elevator getting to their car. And
Oh,
I kind of nudged on my friend. I was like, "Hey, dude, look!" And then we were just standing there like two 18-year-olds didn't know what the hell was going on. So that was pretty cool, and then to see him years later, finally in the UFC, that was pretty fun.
yeah, that's amazing. And I actually was at a pay per view in Phoenix, and I just seeing Joe Rogan walk to the bathroom made me feel starstruck. So it's pretty cool to hear your story and then you be in there with the octagon, him interviewing you. But
Yeah, what was
yeah, I mean,
funny is that I've never actually been to a UFC fight until I fought in the UFC.
really,
Yeah, that was my first
you,
time at a UFC fight, which was my own.
that's crazy.
Yeah, it's
That's
just
crazy.
I was always training for them and then working, and they have UFC fights usually on a Saturday night, and I've always just been working.
Yeah,
So finally, when I got the chance to fight in the UFC, I was like, "Oh, hey, check this out! It's actually my first time at a UFC fight."
no, that's crazy to me. But yeah, let's take it to that debut. I had read something previously where you were sitting there eating barbecue. You get a phone call. Hey, we got this fight in 2 weeks. Um, I guess somebody had interviewed you and asked you if you stopped eating. You said no. I'm gonna eat this, and then I'm gonna go work my ass off the next week and cutting weight and stuff. What kind of goes through your head when you get that call that you're about to debut in the UFC?
Uh, that I mean, it was a trip because I kind of. It's not like you kind of had the feeling that it was going to happen, but at the stage of where I'm at, with as many fights as I have, it's like, okay, well, who's going to come around with what kind of offer, and what are we gonna do from there? Of course, I'm sitting there eating Korean barbecue, and it's all you can eat. What am I gonna do? Stop eating? Hell no. So I'm just gonna keep going, and I'll deal with it later. If anything, I shouldn't change anything because what I'm doing is what got me there.
Right.
So just finish up my Korean barbecue and just hit the gym the next day like I had a fight against Barcelos.
Yeah. Yeah, and you get to that point where you get that phone call. You've worked all the way up through your professional career. You fought in Russia, Dubai, all over the world. Um, I mean, what did it take for you to get from day one of your professional MMA career to the UFC? Because it looked like you went through plenty of adversity.
Yeah, I mean, all it takes is just either just the grit and the determination, or just being too dumb to know when to quit. It's got to be a combination of both. Um, I got into fighting because I like the competition of it. I like martial arts. I never considered UFC to be the final goal. I even if I got in the UFC, I had to remember that being at the top was the goal, not necessarily the organization. And
Right.
after that Barcelos fight, having that press conference, I had to tell all the MMA reporters that they cover just the UFC. They consider themselves MMA reporters, but all they cover is the UFC. You know, um, Look what happened in the Bellator with the bantamweight Grand Prix. Patchy Nick just had a great fight and a great showing. By their logic, is Patchy Nick not very good because he's not UFC? Is he not UFC caliber? That doesn't make any sense. But then you kind of say, oh, but he's at the top of the Bellator, so of course he's kind of something. Was no, there's badasses all over the world and in every organization. So you know, eventually it was going to be time for me to go up, whether it be just to be as a feeder to somebody, or me them trying to pour into me. I think this Barcelos fight, they didn't expect much of me because they gave everybody else outside the UFC not disrespect, but they didn't give them the credit that they deserve.
Yeah, and I mean, you open up in your debut with a ranked opponent, and I'm sure a lot of people, like you said, didn't think much of you. I mean, training up those 2 weeks, getting up to the fight. I mean, what kind of stuff are you looking for in Barcelos and to come out on top? And also, I mean, what's your mentality at that point? Are you going in there just saying like, I just need to perform so I get a contract, or what kind of plays into that?
The only thing I was thinking as far as the Barcelos fight was don't get socked in the face because that guy hits hard. We've seen him knock people out, bloody people up, and of course I was thinking, okay, I gotta keep on my wheels, I gotta keep on my bike. That way I don't get socked right in the mush. But I also can't just run away from the guy because then I'm not going to do anything. He's going to walk me down, and all of a sudden it's going to be a whack decision.
Yeah,
If it's going to go to a decision, it's got to be an exciting one. So, you know, just being in the moment, being present, being able to be in his face, stick and move, and just flow in there without having to exert as much effort as he is. Because he had to struggle in order to stay in there with me, and he was trying. So that played into exactly what I wanted in that fight. Make it exciting, make him swing and miss, make the crowd go crazy. I'll make them want me to come back. That way, the UFC has to give me a chance.
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, on top of that, you got that exciting debut. You come into your next fight. Unfortunately, you take the loss. Uh, what kind of what kind of mentality are you holding after that fight? Is it something to where you I mean, you look back and you're like, I could have done this better or this better. I mean, what kind of did you critique yourself on?
Well, of course, anytime you take a loss, you look at it and you're like, okay, what could I have done better? And Asuncao is he's one of those guys that he's able to pull you into a game, and he does well in just doing just enough in order to get the win. And we saw that against me, obviously. We saw him do that to Funkmaster, who's the champion now. We saw him do that to TJ Dillashaw, who had a great run. Um, Unfortunately, this last one, he got screwed in that fight. You know, of course, people are going to reach for the cage to try to pull him up. You don't reward somebody for reaching for the cage, taking a point, and then standing back as neutral. Like, no, you just gave the guy exactly what he wanted. Of course, Asuncao was rocked, but he was gonna hold on, and he might have rode out the round and then got that win decision. Who knows? But unfortunately, it happened the wrong way. But as far as after the fight, you look at the fight, and like I said, you look at the things that you could have done better. But the silver lining it for me was that anybody who has lost to a Suncao has had a meteoric rise. What happened to Funkmaster? Right after he lost to a Suncao, he had his great run. Same thing with TJ. Same thing with uh, ATT, Pedro Munoz. Anybody who lost to him, immediately meteoric rise. So, but now I understand why, because it's more than just fighting in there. It's the game plan. It's winning 3 minutes out of the out of the 5 minute round. It's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah, and you hit it on on the head there. I mean, he's fought the likes of Sterling, Dillashaw, Pedro, those guys. You go in there, and I mean, you unfortunately take the loss, but you come back and you get your win against Gravely. I mean, that fight with you and Gravely, in my eyes, I mean, you went in there and your pace is unmatched. You fight nonstop the whole fight. You don't slow down. What do you contribute that to? I mean, it's one of those paces that you don't see anymore.
Yeah, well, a lot of people want to say, okay, you just gotta do the cardio work and it'll come out, but that's not necessarily the case. A lot of times you have to push yourself in order to do those things. You can be in shape to do it and still not do it. You got to go in there and put numbers on people. You got to. I mean, it's inevitable. If you can throw 500 strikes, at least one third of them are going to land.
Right.
Especially if they're not moving. With Gravely, I knew that if my technique was wrong or sloppy, he's going to just chunk them punches and try to take me down or hold me down or maybe even repeat what a Sunsao did. So I knew that if I put pace on him, I get to his body, then we're gonna be in good shape. But of course, I had to be in shape in order to do it. And the only way to get into shape like that is to do that at practice.
And are you doing that every day, or is that something where you train like that a couple times a week?
No, it's only a couple times a week. You know, um, Outside of fight camp, I do take a rest round. I take it easier during practice. You know, I uh, I let my body rest and recover because you can't be in fight shape all the time. You're just gonna run your body into the ground. You make sure you're proper nutrition. You got your supplements, but then when it is fight time, you start ramping up those numbers. I mean, we look at old school boxing coaches where they have the clicker and they just keep a record of how many punches you throw. How many times have you seen that in an MMA gym? Zero. No, no
Yeah.
coaches, no coaches are doing that. So what I did is I installed an app on my phone. And I hand it to my coach, and I say, "All right, 3 minute round, 5 minute round, whatever, however long the minutes of the round. Keep account, keep account of my punches, and on my kick. How many shots did I take? How many shots did I stop? Let's take more of a let's take more of a direct approach towards this activity, not just oh yeah, you were more active to change. Let's put it on
Yeah.
paper. Let's make it official.
And that's something that when I watch a fight and I see somebody gassing out, I always think to myself, like, why are they not training this exact fight or exact scenario where they got to go 3 rounds every time, like they're training hard at practice? Why don't people train 5 rounds just so they can be when they're at the third round, they're ready to keep going? I mean, you being a fighter, I mean, what? Why don't people do that more?
Well, it's kind of tough. You know, you have your strength and conditioning in the morning, and then you got your fight practice, and then you have technique at night, or running at night, or whatever your drills are. And then also consider I didn't cut weight the day before for this 5 round sparring session. In this case, you did cut weight the day before, you made weight, and then now you have this 3 or 5 round fight. So it's pretty tough you can compare them, but all the nuances aren't the same.
Right, right. And I kind of want to take a step back here. You, Josh Barnett reached out to you and took you under his wing, whatever you want to call it. I mean, how has he benefited you in your career getting to the UFC?
Well, as a coach, of course, he imparts technique to me, strategy, and martial skill. And when you're talking about Josh Barnett, he's been around the world also. He's been in the fight game for 20 plus years. So, of course, there's that side of things. And then there's the mentor side of things where he teaches you philosophy and all that nerd stuff that kind of goes into fighting. That's not just the fists and the kick. So,
Yep.
of course, him being a mentor and secondary fighting is it helps a lot because it gives you a different perspective on training.
Yeah, and I mean it. I was reading about it, and it had said that he reached out to you when your gym closed, and you said he could have reached out to anybody in that gym, but he reached out to me. Saw the potential in you, and how far you could go in the fight game. I mean, when you get somebody like that in your corner, or your coach, or and your mentor, does that almost make you want to succeed more? Just to because you want to prove to this guy, like, you know what, you made the right decision.
Kind of, because when you train under somebody with like a Josh Barnett or anybody really who has had accolades and years in the fight game, you take on. It's not just, oh, hey, you're my coach now, because that wasn't the case. I mean, he was kind of in communication with me and everything, but you got to imagine how many people ask Josh, "Hey, can you be my head coach?" Or Dan Henderson or anybody who's really done it. The best thing I can imagine is how many kids would love LeBron James or Kobe to be their coach. They probably hear it all the time. So when you get these people in your corner, you do take on debt and expectation and pressure. So the first thing I thought was, well, I gotta make sure my work ethic is there, and then I gotta ask all the questions, even if I'm annoying, and go through all these training methods, even if I don't trust them. Just go through with them anyway. At the end of the day, you're gonna be somewhere, but it's not gonna be where you're at right now.
Yeah, and with Josh Barnett being your head coach and getting that mentor behind you, I mean, people look at him as a legend in the game. He's been around the game many times. Um, when you kind of get that coach, you get that mentor behind you. What different knowledge did he bring to the game for you that you didn't have before?
Well, techniques and specific. You drill certain things in jujitsu that wouldn't work in fighting, or you would have a really hard time, doing certain things. And he would be like, don't do that shit. It won't work. You're just gonna get punched in the mush right here. And I was like, okay, well, what would you do? And then he would teach me something, and some things. And then it would be the other side, like I said, the philosophy of fighting, where it's like, okay, no, you got to go for the kill right here. You can see this opponent breaking and you didn't do it because you were tired or you were afraid of getting tired. You were afraid to kick it into third or fourth gear because what if it didn't work? Well, fuck that. You got to kick that out of your head. You got to go for it. So, because as much as you're suffering, you're making the other person suffer. In the second round when I was fighting Gravely, one of the first things you heard was from Josh saying he's suffering, which was true. I was getting to the body, I was kicking him, I was elbowing him, kneeing him in the gut, and just giving him no room to breathe. But props to Gravely, he didn't drop.
Yeah, oh no, he didn't fall at all. Like it was it. Would you say he's one of the toughest guys you fought?
Yeah, probably. I mean, because I remember feeling some skull on my knuckles, and he did not go anywhere. And I was like, well, cool. And I remember putting my feet all up in his guts too. And I was like, dang, I guess he did every sit up known to man. Because usually when I kick people in the guts like that, I see them hit the floor. But, I guess not.
No, not everybody now.
Not
No, that's
everybody.
um but yeah, I mean, you find a coach like Josh, you work through all the adversity getting to the UFC. When you look back on it now, would you have changed anything?
A few things. I'd like to, of course, I would, if I could time travel, I would change a couple things. But it's not because I knew better at the time. It's because I just didn't know. I with certain boxing coaches, like I should have asked certain things or done drills a little bit differently. Like for the most part of my career, I've always tried 100%. I've never half-assed a camp. Whatever I knew, I went forward with the best of my ability. But now, if I can go back in time, knowing what I know now, I'd be like, oh no, let's change this a little bit so we can make sure we get either not cut or not hit in the face as much, or better cardio or whatever.
Right. And what would you tell the young kid right now who, I mean, what you said you started jujitsu when you were how old?
I was
14?
18. I
18?
started Taekwondo when I was 14.
Okay, Taekwondo when you were 14, Jiu-Jitsu when you're 18. I mean, what would you tell the young kid who's 18 years old who wants to become a fighter, how to do it? What advice would you give to that kid?
Any uh any advice? I would say don't kiss your mom on your dad's birthday. Of course, listen to your coaches. Be wary of the coaches with ego. That's a hard one because when you put yourself under somebody and you don't worship them, but you trust that they know better, that you trust that they know what they're talking about, but then you can't identify ego. Oftentimes, ego is the killer of all growth. Sometimes, hey, listen, Josh is a great coach, but he can't do everything all the time. So you have to, as a fighter, you have to go out and you have to search to do things where he can't. You know, so if Josh were to get mad at these things, then I would know, oh, this is not good. Of course he's going to question, and then I'm going to give my answer, and I'm receptive enough to be able to talk to him about it. I'm not going to be bullheaded because then that's ego again.
Hmm.
So no growth is going to be had if when there's ego. So be wary of egotistical coaches. Be aware of your own ego. You know, um, and of course, listen. Be receptive to information coming in.
Absolutely. And I second that 100% because I see a lot of um, just from observing UFC for as long as I have, and just seeing the egos within the UFC. You see some of the younger guys coming in, who their egos are so large. They're already coming in talking shit, which is good for your own brand. It sells fights, but there's some people who you almost build your opponent up that way. And I don't like to call people out or anything, but Rosa Jr. When
Hmm.
he was talking all of that, he goes in there, fights a veteran in UFC, and he takes the loss. And I think some people kind of need that. You need to be humbled in a way, because it shows you like you're just as human as the next guy. So yeah, I definitely agree with everything you just said there. But with that, also, when you kind of look back on your come up in your professional career, um, besides UFC, I mean, where was your favorite place to fight?
Japan.
Japan?
Yeah, every time I'm visiting Japan, it's something new. You're learning something new about the culture, either the culture of themselves or how the culture can impact you. Just the way the world works. There's a lot of that in Japan. You know, this last time I was in Japan for New Year's, uh, Josh had a fight in Ganrujima, and it was crazy. The rule sets and everything were different, but when we landed there, we went to his restaurant to eat, and the first thing they do is they give you the X. Oh no, no American. And the first thing you're thinking is, are y'all racist? And they're not letting us in because we're white or because we're American. But it might not be that. It might very well be that. But it could also be they don't know any English, and they're probably assuming that we don't know any Japanese. So we're not going to go through that whole weird dance like we don't know, we don't know. We're just going to say no. So it could be that. It could be a number of things. Nuance is a big thing over in Japan, and taking that back to America, it enriches your life. And not only that, but Japan is cool. I mean, we all like anime, not the weird stuff, but we like the cool stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to visit Japan. And didn't they call you the Jap? Was it the Japanese killer?
Yeah, for a while they were calling me the Japanese killer, and I didn't like that. And I was like, nah, bro, like I'm your own. I love Japan. Like, why am I going to be a Japanese killer? Like, let's all be cool.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. And did they, when you were fighting in Japan? I mean, were they just like embracing you, bringing you in? Like, I
Not
mean,
at first.
were not at first.
Not at first. Of course, whenever you're being brought out, even out of the state or out of the city, you're being brought in to lose to their favorite, their boy. You know, um. So of course, when you're traveling across borders, they want you to lose to the Japanese guy, to the Russian guy, or wherever you go. They want you to lose. Um. So at first, when they started calling me the Japanese killer, they actually paid me more for my first fight in Japan than they did for my second fight. But the reason why I went was because I was like, no, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna keep doing this because, for number one, it's a free trip to Japan. Number two, it's a chance to fight and prove myself. So then, after a while, people started getting to know me. They were like, "Oh, Victor, you're always willing to fight. You're an example of the Japanese fighting spirit, and of course, you're a disciple of Josh." So yeah, we liked it. So that's when they started liking me. But at first,
Okay.
nah, not really.
Yeah, and I would assume that just out of their respect for their own, which makes a lot of sense. But I mean, was what was it like fighting in Dubai? Was
Hot.
that? Yeah,
You're kicking it in the middle of a desert. But
yeah, and they're very rich over there, so I didn't know if I mean, like, are they?
I wouldn't. So the country of the United or of the Emirates, they are very wealthy. There are certain people there that are very wealthy. As far as everybody just rolling around in Rolls Royces and everything, it's not really like that. There's a lot of service people, and it's being built as the playground for rich people because of certain things. But but the country of Dubai is still a wonderful place. The scenery is great. The people there can be nice, but also the people there can just look at you as a opportunity to rip somebody off or just money. But
Mhm.
I suppose that's true for anywhere.
Yeah, yeah. And then I think the other place you had fought was Russia. Um, I mean, when I think of Russia, I think of manly men, cold. I mean, was that
Yeah,
pretty much what Russia was?
cold, and nobody talks to you. I'm trying to make people laugh over there, and they're just giving me the stink eye. Of
Yeah,
course, I'm just like, all right, whatever it is, what it is. I'm fighting your boys. I get it. But then after the fight, everybody's cool. It's like you need to punch each other first. That's their high.
yeah. They want to see violence.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense as well. But before I get you out of here, I like to ask each person a few questions, kind of out of the fighting realm. Um, I think one of my questions was answered when I had watched a podcast where you were with someone else, and they asked about your 1970 Cutlass, I believe.
Ooh. Yeah.
So I was one of my questions I like to ask people is their dream car. I would assume that's your baby, your dream car.
It's not my dream
Uh,
car, but it's one of my projects. Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
it's kind of hard to say a dream car. I mean, I like the Cutlass. It's me and Josh drove it down from Washington down to California, and that was so the Cutlass it's more than just the car. It's the experience that I've had with the car. Of course, Josh is helping me build it, and it's just a cool car. Anyways, you see it in a sea of Chevelle, Camaros, Mustangs. You don't see Cutlasses. And the
Hmm.
ones you do are all pimped out, and they're not the same. I'm trying to stick with a muscle car. I'm trying to stick with Mad Max theme on this car. Um, One of the cars that I've always really wanted is 60s Ford Fairlane, but that's after I'm retired. I want to have this as a cruise around baby. Another car
Yeah,
I want to build is maybe a 70 or a 71 Firebird, a Pontiac. Those are cool too.
with the
But
eagle on the front or the
oh
Firebird
yeah,
on the front.
have that fire
Yeah,
chicken.
yeah, yeah. No, yeah. Those are all American muscle that when I get older will probably be far out of people's imagination.
Oh yeah,
Um,
twisted steel and sex appeal, man.
yeah, absolutely. But I also like to ask everybody um, their dream vacation.
Dream vacation. I would probably go back to Japan without having to cut weight. Yeah, every time I've gone to Japan has been pretty much I've had to compete, so I don't get to really enjoy the country. I would go over there. I would spend a couple weeks there, going to Osaka, going to Tokyo, going to Mount Fuji, and being able to experience the culture outside of fighting culture and the food, of
Abs-
course.
yes, absolutely. And when you were in Japan, I mean, when I look at Japan or I see something on Japan, it seems very populated. Um, was is it really that bad when you're there with the population, like just people everywhere?
No, no, there's a lot of really wide open space, but it just so happens that the city area is very compact. It's
Yeah.
kind of like I would say LA. There's
Okay.
there's parts of LA that are just really dense in population because everybody's living around each other. But then you go to different parts of LA and there's wide open spaces. Not too far from LA is Ventura County, and there is 3-acre lots, and everybody's spread apart.
Hmm.
But to say that Japan is super overly populated, it's kind of an unfair assessment. There are
Yeah.
very populated parts. If you're in the subway during rush hour, you're shoulder to shoulder with a lot of people. But then just outside of Tokyo, you got the Japanese onsens, the hot springs and everything, and you don't see another person for a while. You're chilling, and then everything is really good.
Yeah. Well, I got two more questions for you. The next one is going to be if you could own any exotic animal, what would it be?
Magpie, the bird.
The bird. I don't think
Yeah,
I've ever heard.
they're really smart crows almost. But here's the thing: you can teach those things to talk. They're really intelligent, and the thing is, you can probably teach it to pick up some spare change. Just fly around, see something reflective, pick up a quarter, drop it off at the house. You can teach it to do tricks. Those things are cool, and it will probably help me with the cutlass too.
I'm gonna have to look that up after this. I've never heard of it.
Yeah, magpies are. I mean, they just look like crows or ravens, but they're just really smart.
Okay. Last question. Um, Outside of the UFC, um, who is one celebrity that you would love to have lunch with?
Hmm. Ah. Will Ferrell.
Okay.
Yeah, he seems like he's an insane person. I would say Bill Burr, just because he's a comedian, but I think he's gotten pretty soft. I think I think Will Ferrell. I think Will Ferrell still has that crazy in him, where he's able to open up and be normal, as opposed to most celebrities where they kind of they got to protect their celebrity status. I think Will Ferrell's pretty set to where he can open up a little bit more.
Yeah, I used to listen to Bill Burr, and then people started kind of going at him for stuff he was saying. So I transitioned to Theo Vaughn and Andrew Schultz.
Yeah, I mean those guys
Um,
are saying some wild stuff too. Hey,
yeah,
I said this in a past interview. Pretty much every joke is okay with me. I don't mind what you're saying. If it's funny, it's funny. You can't get mad.
I
Um,
agree.
as far as Bill Burr goes, his old stuff, freaking hilarious. And then he started getting a little bit more PC, and I was like,
Yeah,
maybe it's because he's married and he's a dad. He's got to change a little bit. But every now and again, he says some stuff that I'm just like, that's back to the old hilarious Bill Burr. But yeah,
ab-
Theo Vaughn, he's saying some wild stuff. He's hilarious. So I haven't actually heard of a lot of good comedians right now that are saying some racy stuff.
yeah. I mean, Andrew Schultz, last like comedy special, that he like released and it's on YouTube now was pretty. Um, I mean, if you were easily hurt, you'd probably be walking out of there crying.
Oh yeah.
So last thing I've heard from somebody who said some political things here and there. But I'm with you on that. There's really not many left.
I've
Um,
actually gotten more into the storytelling kind of comedy nowadays.
yes.
Miss Pat, she's hilarious. Ali Sadiq, he's freaking hilarious. And they're great storytellers, and they mix in their humor with it. And for me, that's just been really good lately.
Yeah. I mean, there's plenty out there. I'm sure that I haven't seen yet. Um, but yeah, before I get you out of here, I just like to ask each person as well, like, what's next for you? Anything on the up and up that you've learned recently, and I mean, what's the future look like in your UFC career?
Well, as far as immediate future, I'm gonna go to Lucille's to get me a couple barbecue beef ribs. As far as my UFC career, I just re-signed a 4-fight contract, so I got some more fights with me. I'm just waiting for the call and the opponent next. So I'm just still in the gym doing my thing.
Yeah, I mean, congrats on your contract. That's huge. Are you looking for anybody in particular, or are you looking for a ranked opponent next, or I mean, are you pretty much open for whatever?
I'm open for whatever. The ultimate goal is still the top. So eventually they can't deny me. So I'm just gonna keep fighting and keep trying to beat people's faces in.
Hey, that's cool with me. We're the Head Hunters podcast. We that's kind of where I got that from. Just, I mean, who's not going out there hunting heads anymore?
Yeah.
But hey, I appreciate the time. It was an honor. I'm thankful you answered so fast and got up here. I wish you the best of luck in the future. I'm excited to see who you got next, and I'll be watching.
All right. Thanks a lot, man.
No problem. Have a good one.
Take it easy, man.